Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. I got up today because I was thinking about just some interesting conversations that we had yesterday on social media, where we were talking about this whole crazy thing with Nate Parker and all this other stuff. I'm not really going to talk about that anymore. I think I made my position pretty clear on it in terms of how I feel about fairness and due process. And that led to just conversations about black men and black women. Excuse me, how there's so much of a lack of trust between black men and black women. Largely I think this was engineered by white supremacy. I really believe that. I think it goes all the way back to slavery. And it's really interesting because what tends to happen is whenever I say something like black men should never blanketly discriminate or mistreat black women, or blanketly stereotype black women in a negative way, I'll hear from black men who will say, well, what about the women, Dr. Boyce? You don't say nothing about the women. And then when I say, well, black women should, if you hate black men because of whatever happened to you, that's not acceptable. You're not welcome on my page. I'll hear from black women who will say, well, Dr. Boyce, what about black men? You don't say nothing about black men. And I think that's really funny. And I'm the only one, I guess, that gets to see everything that I post. And what I kind of see is this weird symmetry of deflection. This weird symmetry of people, all of us, not just other people. I mean, I'm sure I've done it myself. We all do it. We're all human. Of kind of not dealing with your own shit and kind of sort of placing whatever's happened to you in your life onto everybody else, onto the rest of the world, when we do have some say in our outcomes. It doesn't mean that we don't get victimized. I mean, I think all of us have. But, what I do see sometimes is you'll see people that will take an experience that they had, a couple of experiences they had, usually starting either with a parent, like the missing father, which is a problem for a lot of young ladies. Not because black men are just garbage and they just don't want to be around. I mean, it's just relationships don't work out, and the custodial parent spends more time with you, so you maybe feel that the other parent just doesn't want to be around. And sometimes they don't, but sometimes it's more complicated than that. Sometimes I know a lot of black men who have had their kids taken away from them, and that's an untold story. But what happens is the pain that people feel when that occurs can lead them to walk away with the white supremacist conclusion that black men ain't shit. That black men are less human than other people, that black men love their kids less than other people, black men need to get it together, etc., right? And I'm not going to say that I don't think brothers can improve on average. I mean, that's what I do all the time. When I go, most cities I go to, I'm usually being recognized by black men. There'll be a sister every now and then they'll see me, but it's usually the brothers on the street. And the brothers that do follow me on that level, they know that what I believe deeply in is all of us stepping up our game to confront white supremacy. And so, I tell my girls, I say, look, if you ever meet the kind of black man who follows me, just know he's going to have a certain code of conduct that he's committed to on some level that will probably lead him to be a decent man for you. He's not going to be an economic victim sitting around saying, oh, I wish the white man would give me a job and he ain't taking care of me. He's not going to be thinking that way. He's going to be thoughtful and intelligent, because that's what I encourage. He's going to be a man that believes in progress. He's going to love his community. And most importantly, he's been told to respect the black woman. Now, that don't mean you got to love every black woman, because some black women are just damaged. Some black women are not perfect. Not even perfect, but beyond not perfect. I'm talking about, like, I'm committed to a white supremacist idea that I want to also exterminate black men because of what my daddy did to me and what that boyfriend did to me or what that uncle did to me when everybody wasn't looking, right? And so it does not minimize the pain of these tragedies. It just means that that's what we do. We're all a product of our experience. And on the flip side, when I see black men who just really seem to hate black women, just really have a real issue with all black women. Guys like Tommy Sotomayor, who unfortunately, I think I would love to know more about his relationship with his mother, because he seems to really have a serious issue with black women. And I think it probably starts with his mama. He's probably has some issues with relationships. Maybe he's been wiped out financially in a relationship or something like that. And that's what I tend to see with brothers. I tend to see brothers who are damaged because of maybe they had a bad mother, That's not as common because, you know, basically the way oxytocin works in the brain is that the mother has an attachment to the child from the time the child comes out of the womb. Go look it up in biology. Don't take my word for it. Go look up what anthropologists and psychologists and biologists will say about the bond between the mother and child. The bond between the mother and child is so strong that even an undisciplined mother in many cases can become very, very connected to the child. And it all starts with that chemical oxytocin. If you take oxytocin out of a person's brain, they won't be attached to anybody or anything, or their child or whatever. That's just, you know, this is what I read. But anyway, long story short, you know, if you really kind of look at it, what I tend to see, here's what, and I hope I'm not getting too deep on this, but you know me, I gotta go down the rabbit hole. But I was reading, you know, some of this, and I know for a fact that there's one lady who used to say, I don't know if she wrote a book with this title, but she said, my father was my first boyfriend. And basically what they generally say is that, you know, whatever happened with your dad, that's going to affect your relationships with men for the rest of your life, your perception of men. Also, I think the same thing is true when it comes to the mother. I know a brother, for example, who had a mother who was not there. When she was there, she was either on drugs or she was womanized, or not womanized, but she was kind of a prostitute, you know, and he had a resentment for women. He thought all women were just whores, you know, and he grew up kind of having sex with any girl that walked by, saying, well, all these women are good for is sex. And I really think that can play a part in the way you see the opposite sex. And so what I would just say is that all of us have shit to deal with. I say it's a matter of dealing with your own shit and trying not to spend so much time deflecting, because what tends to occur is, you know, I think that when it comes to men, again, I've studied even mating habits among mammals. Human beings are mammals, and I like to see how human beings would behave if there were no social constructs dictating our behavior. So I like to watch what other mammals do, because they basically, Professor Kenneth Sapolsky at Stanford was basically explaining that 95% of the human brain, which drives your behavior, 95% of the human brain is similar to the animal brain. So a lot of what moves animals, in a deer or a buffalo or whatever, it tends to also move us in terms of mating habits and decisions and all that. And if you look at animals, what you'll find is that you have a small percentage of the animals that are what they would call the alpha males, the strongest, the men that everybody wants, kind of like the LeBron Jameses, you know, or whatever, or the Lil Waynes of their community, right? And Lil Wayne maybe is a funny example. With Drake, let's say Drake, you know, where the women just are really attracted to him. And so what happens is, in some of these species, 5% of the males produce 95% of the offspring. So what you have is you have a small percentage of men that are getting all the women, and a large percentage of men who are just getting one or two women, you know, in their whole life or whatever. And so what I think occurs is, in the black community, I see a lot of that similar mating pattern. Like when I go to the hood, I'll see a lot of girls that would seem to chase after the same dudes. Or I'll know guys who are really good looking or really famous or rich, and they'll meet, you know, 4 or 5 new girls every city they go to, you know, whatever. And so what will happen, I think, is that if you have a guy that's dating 5 or 6 women, you know, and he has to marry somebody, he can't marry 5 or 6, he's gonna marry one. So you'll have one person that gets the prize, and the other 5 that are heartbroken, that are mad, that are mad at men, right? Because they invested in something and didn't get a return on their investment. So ultimately, what I think occurs is you have a spillover. You have a lot of guys who end up feeling the brunt of the pain that came from what one dude has done to a lot of different women, or what different women feel that this guy has done to them because he didn't give them whatever it was that they wanted, you know, from the relationship. And so I don't know what suggestion that would give in terms of, you know, dating patterns. I ain't got it all figured out, and I'm not a relationship therapist. I'm just a dad. I'm just a dad who's 45 years old, and maybe me talking to you gives you. And I'm a man who thinks. I think about everything, and so I'm not going to discount any advice I would give. I give my daughters advice all the time. I like to give them all the game on men and how men operate and what they think and what they might be doing. And I think that's important. I feel sorry for any girl who doesn't get that from her dad, because I think men are complex to those who don't understand them, and I think women are complex to men who don't understand them. What makes it easier though for men, I think, is that most men have their mother at home, whereas 72% of black women don't have their father in the house. Doesn't mean that they don't talk to their father, but having a father in the house is very different from having a father who sees you once every week or 2 or 3. It's just a different experience. So anyway, what I would just generally say is, all of us have shit. You know, all of us have pain. And what I have seen is, on the female side, I will see women that tend to blanket not all women, a lot of women who will blanketly accuse, or think all men are garbage because of what their father did, what the ex-boyfriend did, or maybe what the molesting uncle did. On the male side, I will see men that have no respect for black women because maybe they had kids with a woman and lost the chance to see their own children because she decided that she didn't need the daddy around. If you didn't have the daddy around, the likelihood of you rejecting the daddy is much higher because because you grew up without something. So it's like if I grew up without my left arm, I'm not really going to feel like somebody needs a left arm. I might say, well, a left arm's nice, but you don't really need one, right? So ultimately, I'll see men that are hurt either because they lost their kids, because a woman broke their heart, or two women broke their heart, or they were financially devastated. Maybe they got married and got divorced and lost half of everything, and it makes them angry and scared, and they feel like it's unfair. And I think that what all of us have to do is, I mean, you could go through life hating everybody and mad at everybody and scared of everybody. But maybe the best approach would be to kind of also think about the fact that in our experiences, the common denominator is ourselves. We're the ones who make the majority of the choices when it comes to who we're around and who we choose to invest in. I've seen men invest in the wrong women. Y'all seen it too. Men who just look at the long hair and the big butt or whatever and ignore everything else. And then I've seen women invest in the wrong men. That guy that you think is handsome and wonderful and amazing and got all this swag, well, guess what? Unfortunately, a lot of other women feel like he's got swag, and that's why a lot of times you marry the rich guy or the good-looking guy or whatever. Unfortunately, data shows that the high testosterone alpha male is more likely to cheat, more likely to be abusive, more likely to not want to stay with you, because that's what testosterone does. Testosterone is a neutralizer of oxytocin. Oxytocin is what bonds people together. Testosterone neutralizes oxytocin. So high testosterone men, meaning men who have a lot of ambition, men who have big muscles, men who have who chase a lot of power, and that translates into chasing a lot of sex, chasing a lot of women, and also it translates into the reduced ability to make long-term bonds. Don't believe me? Go look it up. Go look up testosterone's effects on oxytocin. Oxytocin is oxytocin. See, I spelled it. I think it's Oxytocin. I think so. Anyway, go look it up. Go study this. And I think that, and what I tell my daughters is I say, what this translates to is there are some men that are fun to hang out with for a while. The bad boy, the thug, maybe some women like this stupid thing, this corporate thug. I don't say stupid. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I'm not going to be a thug for you. I'm a man, and that's it. And you shouldn't want a thug. You should want a strong man. I don't think a thug is really beneficial. Like, why would you want your man thugging? That don't make sense to me. But then again, to each his own. But literally, like I tell her, I say, look, the athlete, the corporate thug, the guy that you look at, this big guy with the big muscles, just be cautious and understand that there's biological connection between that man's how appealing that man is to you and his sexuality. I said, so some men are good for short periods of time. Some men are good for the long haul. The men who are better for marriage tend to be men who are not quite in that high testosterone category, but have more of a balance in terms of having the ability to nurture and be committed and show that kind of discipline. And so same thing is true with men. I think I know as a man, I had to learn the difference between what I wanted and what I needed. And so I think if you go to one extreme or the other, like if you only focus on what you need and don't pay attention to what you want, you'll end up with somebody you're not attracted to. But if you focus too much on what if you go the other direction and you focus on what you want and not pay attention to what you need, then you end up with the woman who takes all your money or the woman who disappoints you or whatever, And so, long story short, I just think at the end of the day, we all got to deal with our own shit. You got to deal with your shit. I got to deal with my shit. You can't really put your shit onto everybody else. If your experiences make you less trusting of people, that's one thing. That's fine. That's a personal decision. I don't enter into a lot. Let's say you decide, look, I'm not going to enter into a lot of relationships because I don't trust. I can't put my heart out there like that or whatever. That's fine. I think you miss out a little bit. But it's still your right to do that. But when you so let's say you're a black woman and you've been hurt by these men in your life and you've seen this devastation that's caused by a certain percentage of men, and you join up with the extreme feminists who seem to, damn to talk about black men like we're doggish Neanderthals, then you're pretty much utilizing white supremacy for the benefit of your own agenda. It's no different from you being mad at your sibling and your sibling's enemy, your brother's enemy, outside says, oh, well, let's go kill him. Let's go stab that motherfucker because you know he ain't shit. That's pretty much what you're doing. You're joining up with enemies of your family to slaughter your own brother. And that to me is unacceptable. I'm not a fan of that. You know, that's why I have a big issue. I get in fights with extreme feminists. I don't get mad at somebody when she tells me she's a feminist, but I'm like, well, what does that mean? Explain to me what that means, because unfortunately, sometimes it gets to the point of ridiculousness when it comes to the desire to kind of exterminate and eliminate black men. And so the same thing is true on the other side. You know, when it comes, and it's funny. I think I have to start saying and vice versa every time I talk, because people always assume when you hear me say something about men, you think I don't say nothing about women. When you hear me say something about women, you think I don't say anything about men. But you know, I think that same thing for black men. You know, as Malcolm X said, there's no group of people more disrespected on the earth than the black woman. And so I'll see a lot of brothers who will use their own pain, their own experience, sometimes very conscious brothers who will use their own pain and experience to really talk about women like they're garbage. You know, who really feed into, again, built by white supremacy. They'll feed into what you're hearing in hip hop. Well, black women ain't nothing but bitches and hoes and this, and this, and and I think that's sick. I think it's destructive. I think that it's you are nothing but a squirrel and a worm of a man if you are disrespecting the people who gave you life. I mean, really, when you really say stuff about black women, like black women ain't nothing but bitches and hoes or whatever, I mean, you're hating yourself so badly because we came from a woman. You know what I mean? Seriously? Like, how can you do that? And so, I think that there's room for healthy debate. I think there's room for constructive critiques and say, okay, this is what I like more. You know, I wish that this wouldn't happen or whatever. But a lot of times it comes down to our own shit. Watching out, making sure you don't make the same mistakes you made that led you to make the decisions that caused you to go through whatever you went through. And then sometimes, though, you can make all the right decisions and bad things just happen to people. That's it. That's life. You know, bad shit happens sometimes. You know, so anyway, that's it. I think at the end of the day, there's been a lot of damage distributed in the black community. I think that a lot of young ladies grow up just really traumatized by what they see. A lot of brothers are being traumatized by, not being able to get jobs, being attacked by the police. And all this is really created by white people. So a lot of times, what we perceive as black men shit and black women shit is really white people shit. So really, if you want to get upset about the conditions under which you're operating, I think you also need to take a look at white supremacy and the role that white supremacy played in the destruction of the black family, the destruction of the black man, the destruction of the black woman. If you can't sort of see it in that context, then what's going to happen is you're going to look at the person next to you and hate their guts. So that's it. I'm about to get out of here, guys. I'm about to go teach the Black Wealth Boot Camp. That's our class where we teach about wealth and cooperative economics and how to build wealth in the black community, but how to keep it in the black community. It's a great class. You can go check it out at theblackwwealthbootcamp.com. Don't forget the THE. It's theblackwwealthbootcamp.com. I'm also teaching the financial leadership program for children. So you can look at that if you're interested in signing your child up. It's at blackfinancialleadership.com. That's blackfinancialleadership.com. So that's it. That's one of my solutions. My remedy is, if we have more money circulating in our families, a lot of our problems will probably go away. A lot of families break up over money. That's why we talk about family structure and planning, true planned parenthood, true planned family. I'm talking about planning and thinking ahead of time. In our course, because we believe that if you plan all that out carefully, it can avoid a lot of devastation. It can avoid a lot of not just trauma, but a lot of disappointment, a lot of pain. So that's the goal: get away from the pain, and then you challenge the son of a bitch who caused the pain in the first place. And I don't think it's black people that are doing this. This is all created by white supremacy. So I'm about to get out of here, guys. Have a good day. I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Peace.